Shock today in Woodbridge after a woman was found dead in a home just after midnight. Police charging a 68-year-old man with second-degree murder. Good evening. A semi-detached home was surrounded by yellow crime tape as police pieced together what happened.
The identities of both the suspect and the victim have been released, taking neighbors by surprise. CTV's Beth McDonnell joins us live from Vaughan to bring us the very latest. Beth.
Michelle, emotions are high on this residential street. I've seen people in tears today struggling. People in Estella Wheeler's circle are remembering her as a kind neighbor and a beloved teacher. Estella Wheeler's next-door neighbors say she liked to sing while hanging laundry in the backyard. Too shaken to speak on camera, they describe her as a friendly, kind, and beautiful woman.
Quite a scene for our officers and any of the responding first responders, and also for family or anyone in the neighborhood.
York Regional Police were called to Wheeler's home over a report about unknown trouble around 12:30 in the morning. She was found with serious injuries and died. 68-year-old Trevor Wheeler has been charged with second-degree murder. Neighbors say they were married and lived together in the home.
I don't know what else to say. I mean, I'm devastated.
Ever any indication there was anything?
No. Always a happy-go-lucky person. He, talk to you. He'd be smiling, happy-go-lucky. Never heard anything coming from their house.
Wheeler was a mother and a teacher. The TDSB's Afrocentric Alternative School in North York, where she taught grade 7 and 8 for 7 years, expressing condolences and deep sadness. The principal writing in a letter, Ms. Wheeler was a well-known, dedicated team member who cared for all her students. During her time at our school, she developed strong relationships with students and staff and will be remembered as an incredibly kind and giving person who was friends with everyone. The TDSB has made supports available to staff and students, with social workers encouraging students to share thoughts and memories of their beloved teacher. On Wheeler's Street, forensic teams worked all day in the home and on the porch, taking pictures and combing through evidence, piecing together how and why she died. Police are also making supports available to anyone who may need them here on the street. They're also asking anyone with information to contact investigators. Reporting live, I'm Beth McDonnell. Michelle, back to you.
Thank you, Beth. To Hamilton now, where police are investigating a deadly daylight shooting. Gunfire rang out at around 1 p.m. outside the Ellen Fairclaw building near King Street West and McNabb. Witnesses reported multiple suspects in a vehicle shooting multiple rounds at the victim. He's only been identified as a Hamilton man. Police say he was intentionally targeted. He was transported to hospital with life-threatening injuries and has now been pronounced dead.
Anything that may have happened, or know any information on what transpired here, we want the public or witnesses to contact our non-emergency line at 905-546-4925.
Hamilton police say suspects were seen fleeing the area but haven't said how many. They say they'll continue to be present at the scene as the search for answers continues. Homicide investigators have already been notified of the incident.
And east of the city, a pedestrian is fighting for his life in hospital after being struck by a vehicle in Pickering. This happened at around 2 p.m. near Highway 7 and Donnelly Avenue. A truck could be seen sitting in the roadway after the crash. A man in his 50s was airlifted to Sunnybrook Hospital. The victim's injuries are described as critical.
Provincial police are investigating a head-on crash early this morning on the QEW. This happened a bit before 4 a.m. in Hamilton. The OPP Highway Safety Division says an SUV heading the wrong way on the Toronto-bound lanes hit another SUV on the Red Hill ramp. One driver was taken to hospital with minor injuries. Police are searching for 3 males reported fleeing the scene.
A school bus driver has been charged after a crash injured several students just south of Woodstock. Provincial police say the bus left the road and rolled into a field just after 8 yesterday morning on Dodge Line. One student was trapped under the bus and was airlifted to hospital in London. 4 other students were taken to hospital in Woodstock. All the injured students had minor injuries. The bus driver is charged with dangerous driving causing bodily harm.
Meanwhile, Toronto police providing an update on a shooting late Sunday in Etobicoke. They say a man in his 20s had been shot just before midnight near Bergamot Drive and Rexdale Boulevard. Well, they're now confirming he was a 25-year-old man, but they say his identity will not be released at this time. Investigators are calling on witnesses or anyone with information to get in touch.
The province's Special Investigation Unit has cleared an OPP officer of any wrongdoing after a man died following an incident in Midland last fall. The SIU was called in after concerns were raised that the man's death may have been connected to a bite from a police dog during his arrest. 45-year-old Dale Lewis had barricaded himself inside an apartment for nearly 9 hours on October 9th. The police dog was brought in after a lack of progress in negotiations. In their report clearing the officer, the SIU says the cause of Lewis's death remains unknown.
Still to come on CTV News, the Ford government is promising action on notices of security interest to protect homeowners. We'll have more on their plan to tackle the issue a little later in the newscast.
And we have more news in a moment, but first, here's a live look at the city tonight. Continued cloudiness, but these great conditions will move out and the sun will make a solid comeback tomorrow, as Jessica's been promising. Hey, Jess.
Hey, it's been one of those days where it's not bad, but it's not great, right? We had a cooler day, but it's still above seasonal. We had some drizzle early on, never really broke that cloud deck. But as we head into the day tomorrow, high pressure that's in northern Ontario sinks its way down, brings the sunshine back out. But temperature-wise, we don't warm up all that much, but we still stay in that kind of above seasonal range. Right now, we're sitting mostly around 6 degrees in southern Ontario, a little warmer through London. The further east you go, the cooler it is. Through Kingston, Ottawa, they're sitting at 5, and over towards areas in Bancroft, they're sitting at just 1. Now, as we kind of make our way towards the island in Pearson, between 5 and 6 degrees, winds are relatively moderate right now, at least through Pearson. A little breezier over towards the island, which is standard. A northerly flow, again, having it feeling a little bit damper out there. As we head through the evening tonight, although we are sitting around the freezing mark, it is still much warmer than we should be, around that -5 or -6 range. Coming up, I'll have a full look at your long-range forecast, including how long the sunshine sticks around, and another system that is brewing up south of the border set to bring some messy weather just in time for the weekend. All those details in just a few minutes. Right now, it's back over to Michelle and Nathan.
Thank you, Jess. We're learning more about a plane crash in Nashville that claimed the lives of 5 Canadians, including 3 children.
While investigators have not yet confirmed the identities of the victims, members of the local aviation community are reacting to the tragedy tonight. CTV's Mike Walker standing by live in Brampton with more. Mike.
Well, Nathan, the plane was based here at the Brampton Caledon Airport, and the community here is in shock and grieving, including one pilot who knew the owner of the plane. The flying community at the Brampton Caledon Airport is mourning. The single-engine plane that crashed in Tennessee and claimed the lives of 5 Canadians, including 3 children, was based here.
It's affected all of us at the field here. We never want to lose anybody, especially for him to go down with his family.
Tony Sarsevic's hangar was next to the plane's owner, who he says was a father of 3 young children.
He was a Russian-Ukrainian background. He told us about the situation that's going on in his country, and he told us how happy he was. He said Canada's the best country in the world, that he could own an airplane.
Registered to a numbered company as of last July, the plane took off from Ontario Monday afternoon and made stops in Pennsylvania and Kentucky before the catastrophic crash in Nashville. Moments before the pilot alerted air traffic control there was an emergency.
Turn it off. I'm at 1,600. I'm going to be landing. I don't know where.
I'm declaring emergency. Could you have the airport in sight? Straight in, runway 2. Straight in, runway 2.
Yes, I have the runway inside.
Runway 2, clear to land.
I'm too far away. I won't make it.
The fiery crash caught on a traffic camera on the side of Interstate 40, just kilometers from the airport.
At that point in time, he didn't have enough to glide to the airport, so he had to do what we call as a forced landing. And with that being said, he probably had about a minute to a minute and a half to figure out where he was going to put the aircraft down.
Danny Nova lives near the crash scene.
Looked up, we saw the belly of the plane, and we heard an engine. I listened for about 2 or 3 seconds, and then I heard a crash and explosion.
American and Canadian aviation officials continue to investigate what went wrong.
First thing they're going to do is they're going to get the engine and try to figure out why the engine quit. Was it a mechanical failure internally? Was it a fuel issue?
Investigators are yet to confirm the identities of the victims and their relationships. Back at the airport, the flying community is struggling to comprehend what happened.
It's really hard to hear because it's so close to home, especially like with myself flying out of here almost every day, knowing that could happen to anybody.
As they desperately wait for answers.
Now, Global Affairs Canada says it won't be disclosing any details about this tragedy due to privacy reasons. A preliminary report is expected about a week from now. Reporting live, I'm Mike Walker. Nathan, back to you.
Thank you, Mike. Toronto police are asking for your help identifying a man in a suspected case of hate-motivated mischief in the Beaches. Investigators say they were called to the Queen Street East and Glen Manor Drive area early Sunday morning. Security video appears to show a man breaking a light fixture in the shape of a menorah. Anyone with information is asked to contact police or Crime Stoppers.
A roundtable discussion was held near Jane and Driftwood today as city officials, police, and community leaders gathered to discuss recent shootings in the area.
People have a right to feel safe in their neighborhood. People have a right to feel safe in their community.
A pair of shootings took place within 24 hours last month, claiming the life of a 40-year-old man and leaving a teen with life-altering injuries. Community groups say cooperation is key when trying to help affect change, especially among youth.
So with familiar faces like me and people that can trust in the community, those youths are only called at-risk youths, but they're not really at risk. They're just vulnerable youths, need people that to care about them, and then maybe we can have difference in our community.
While the search for a suspect in the pair of shootings continues, Toronto police said the meetings were a chance to identify what they could do to help connect the community with resources.
The City of Toronto is looking to recruit more staff for the Toronto Community Crisis Service. The service provides free mental health supports from mobile crisis teams 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. A job fair was held at Metro Hall this afternoon. The 5 community partner organizations, the city partners, are looking to hire more than 100 new team members as the service expands citywide. Positions include frontline health and crisis workers, as well as office staff. Mayor Olivia Chow said the service does important work for vulnerable residents.
In its first year, not even across the city, it received almost 7,000 unique calls. 7,000. Okay, 78% of these calls are transferred from 911. They were handled by the team members without the need of police involvement.
The city says more than 200 job seekers attended the event.
With March break just around the corner, Toronto Public Health is reminding anyone heading abroad to make sure they're protected against measles. Citing the growing number of confirmed cases in Canada, mostly linked to travel, officials say it's a wise idea to take precautions. They say you're considered fully protected if you've had 2 doses of MMR or a similar vaccine, or if you've had measles in the past. That's generally expected to be the case if you were born before 1970.
Well, this year, of all March breaks, we know that measles is spreading in all regions of the world. So you can expect in an airport, on a plane, wherever you're going, that you may encounter measles. But if you're vaccinated, you're protected and you're very, very less likely to get this infection.
All Ontarians are eligible for free measles vaccination. Symptoms of measles can include a high fever, cough, and runny nose, and a red blotchy rash, with a higher risk for those with weakened immune systems.
The Ontario NDP proposed a bill to regulate a tool used over and over again by scammers in this province.
But later, the governing PC party said they would do one better and ban the tools retroactively. As CTV's John Woodward reports, families who have been hit hard by these schemes are overjoyed.
Carl Hoffman had a brain aneurysm and lost his short-term memory, something his family says made him vulnerable to coercion.
Carl believed everybody was good. He believed people were helpful.
And when certain companies realized just how vulnerable, Hoffman was marked and his property was the target, his lawyer said in a court filing, claiming Hoffman's home in Bowmanville was targeted again and again. A key tool, a notice of security interest, or NOSI for short. It's like a lien. The owner can't sell a property until it's paid out. Hoffman claimed in court he was the victim of a fraudulent scheme targeted at the elderly. By July 2021, he had 11 notice of security interests registered against his property, all of which were registered under false or fraudulent pretenses.
It's really sad to know that there's people out there doing this to so many people.
There is a loophole, which is it's way too easy to register one.
Lawyer Dennis Crawford has represented many people fighting NOSIs. He says it's time for them to go.
They're putting in equipment in the house that might be worth $1,500, $2,000, but registering liens for $15,000 or $20,000, orders of magnitude more than what the equipment is worth.
A flaw illustrated on a recent W5 investigation. In Hoffman's case, one of his NOSIs was registered for almost $35,000 for a plumbing valve upgrade and home surge protection equipment, something that retailed at Home Depot for under $300. What happened this week here in the legislature is a tale of one-upmanship, with two parties coming up with a potential fix within hours of each other.
It's time that we take away the power from scammers.
Tuesday morning, the NDP proposed to better regulate NOSIs.
There's no way to police or control.
Then Minister Todd McCarthy said he'd do one better and wipe out $1 billion of existing NOSIs.
We have decided to move forward with complete abolition of notices of security interest against the land registry system, both going forward and retroactively.
Hoffman's daughter-in-law thrilled, though says it came too late. Hoffman recently passed away.
It's really unfortunate that Carl is not here today to hear this great news.
She's heartened that others won't fall victim to the same scheme. John Woodward, CTV News.
Still to come, Nikki Haley has withdrawn from the race to become the Republican presidential nominee. Her departure clearing a path for a Trump-Biden rematch in November.
The largest contractor to work on the ArriveCAN app had its security status suspended. That means GC Strategies will not be allowed to bid on federal contracts with security requirements until further notice. In November, Public Services and Procurement Canada also suspended the company from procurement processes within the department. The Auditor General says GC Strategies was awarded more than $19 million for the ArriveCAN project. Karen Hogan also found its development was a major failure of management. The government has also barred two other companies that worked on the app: Dalian Enterprises and Coradix Technology Consulting.
In January, a federal court ruled the use of the Emergencies Act 2 years ago was unreasonable and infringed on charter rights. Today, the Trudeau government delivered its final response to the commission inquiry.
We do need more time because it's complicated, as Commissioner Rouleau identified himself. A number of these recommendations touch directly on other orders of government. Changing the Emergencies Act necessarily has an impact in terms of the relationship between Canada and provinces and territories.
The Liberals say they are open to changes to the act, but they want to conduct widespread consultations first. The government also outlined steps it is taking to improve the flow of intelligence and protect key transportation corridors. The act was invoked during a prolonged protest on the streets near Parliament Hill in early 2022. There were also demonstrations at the Windsor border crossing and in Coutts, Alberta.
Whether they want it or not, Americans are getting a high-stakes political rematch in November. Donald Trump and Joe Biden are well on their way to becoming the presumptive presidential nominees.
It follows a decisive Super Tuesday that ended the campaign of Trump's lone remaining challenger. CTV's Joy Malbin reports.
After winning millions of votes, it wasn't enough to beat Donald Trump. Nikki Haley, the former UN ambassador, suspending her long-shot challenge in the presidential race.
I said I wanted Americans to have their voices heard. I have done that. I have no regrets.
The first woman to win a Republican primary contest congratulated Trump, but stopped short of endorsing him. Instead, Haley urged Trump to win back disgruntled voters who saw her as an alternative.
It is now up to Donald Trump to earn the votes of those in our party and beyond it who did not support him.
Even as she was on stage, Trump couldn't help himself, taking a final shot at his rival on social media, posting, "Nikki Haley got trounced last night in record-setting fashion," bashing Haley's supporters as radical left Democrats, but then inviting them to join his MAGA movement. All of it setting up a rematch with President Joe Biden, a race that's shaping up to be vicious, bitter, and grueling.
November 5th is going to go down as the single most important day in the history of our country.
Biden praised Haley's courage for speaking the truth about Trump. She called him toxic, unhinged, and that chaos follows him. Biden also appealed to her supporters turned off by Trump. But the president faces low approval ratings and voters are expressing frustration on the ballot.
Free Palestine!
Over his handling of the Israel-Hamas war. No one, it seems, is happy with the candidates out there.
I don't want to vote for him again, and I don't want to vote for Joe Biden. Right now, it's kind of, I feel homeless. It's such a divided country. I'm tired of it being divided. I'd rather be somewhere in the middle.
President Joe Biden addresses the nation Thursday, laying out his accomplishments in his State of the Union speech and taking on Trump more aggressively, making this election about choice and values. Joy Malvin, CTV News, Washington.
South Africa has asked the World Court for additional emergency measures against Israel. The South Africans say more action is necessary because Israel is breaching the measures already in place. In January, the International Court of Justice ordered the Israelis to refrain from any acts in the Gaza Strip that could fall under the Genocide Convention. South Africa has accused Israel of state-led genocide, an allegation Israel and its Western allies described as baseless.
Will driverless vehicles ever become a reality on the roads? Time will tell on that, but the technology is making waves in the water. This autonomous boat is being tested near Portsmouth in South England. The 1,500 horsepower vessel has sensors, radar, communication antennas, and software that controls the boat. It was designed for the military, but could also eventually be used for search and rescue or assisting the Coast Guard. The uncrewed vessel can always be switched to human control at any time.
Coming up, a moving breakthrough for an 8-year-old girl, able to move on her own using the power of her mind. A peek at the technology being used right here in Toronto.
And I'm Pat Foran. Coming up on Consumer Alert, imagine buying a $700 baby monitor, and then months later you're told you need to pay $10 a month to use it. More companies are creating monthly fees for services to try and increase their bottom line. I'll have my reports. That's just ahead.
And after a gray day today, the sun will quite literally come out tomorrow. A bit of a cooler start, so for yourself and the kids heading off to work and school, a layer probably a good idea, but a very spring-like forecast as we settle in towards our Thursday, and the sunshine holding on at least through to the end of the work and school week. Coming up, I'll have a full look at your long-range forecast, including the sunshine on the way, plus the active weather on the way this weekend. All those details coming up in 2 minutes.
Companies are always trying to find ways to increase their revenue, and now more of them are developing monthly subscriptions for their services.
A woman was shocked when she bought a high-end baby monitor and then found out she'd have to pay a monthly charge to use it. Pat Foran has our story on Consumer Alert. Pat.
Thanks, Nathan and Michelle. Monthly fees started with music and movies and are now being sold with everything from printers to doorbells. A Brampton mother bought a $700 baby monitor and was later told if she didn't pay a monthly fee, many of its features wouldn't work. Julia Gonzalez of Brampton wanted the best for her daughter Stella and purchased the Miku Smart Baby Monitor, which came loaded with safety items. The monitor was working fine until one evening something went wrong. On the monitor, it said Gonzalez needed to activate membership. That's when she found out the company had changed hands and she would have to pay a subscription fee of $10 a month, or most of the features would no longer work. CTV News reached out to Innovative Health Monitoring but did not receive a response. But on the company's website it says, "We have purchased the assets and operations of Miku Inc. Many of the features you have been receiving for free will now require a monthly subscription fee." Tech expert Carmi Levy says there is a growing trend for companies to charge subscription fees. Consumers got used to it with music and movie streaming, and now fitness services, doorbell companies, and social media platforms are trying to cash in with monthly fees. Gonzalez says it's unfair to be charged monthly fees since she already had purchased the monitor. She's refusing to pay them and feels she deserves a refund. And we apologize. There were some technical problems with that report. Now, you can also pay monthly fees for car washes, food delivery services, and printer ink refills. You should keep track of these services and how much they cost you to make sure you're not wasting money. On your side, I'm Pat Foran.
If you have a consumer story idea, email us at alert@ctv.ca.
Weather-wise, lots of cloud cover today, so definitely a bit gloomy, but we have sun coming right on back tomorrow.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the sunshine, and also you had pointed out that on the weekend we spring forward.
We do. So we kind of are in this battleground when it comes to our forecast right now between, the advancing warm air, the cold air, and then as we head into the weekend, we get a little bit of everything. Sunshine Friday, then we have rain, snow mix, and we have snow at other times. So just be prepared for quite literally everything as we head in towards this weekend. Weather is brought to you by Train, the most reliable heating and cooling brand. It's hard to stop a train. Now, not a terrible day from start to finish. We saw a little bit of that mist really early on, and then it cleared out and it just made for a mild, albeit really cloudy kind of mark to the second half of our day. Temperature-wise, even though we saw a switch with the wind, a more northerly flow cooling things down, we still held on just above that seasonal mark. So everybody felt that bit of a chill to the air, but it remained at least relatively mild. Temperature-wise, we're sitting at 5 right now here in the city, a little warmer, but not by much. Through Windsor, they're at 6. Out through Ottawa, we're sitting at 5. Sudbury sitting at 4. Anywhere north of Timmins really is a little chillier, but that is to be expected just by nature of where they are. Temperature-wise this evening, despite hovering around the freezing mark and feeling significantly cooler, we remain again above seasonal. We should be at -5 this time of year. Even out towards Bancroft, they're still kind of hovering right above that seasonal mark. We're all comfortably sitting in our overnight lows between 5 and 6 degrees above where we should be. Getting into the day tomorrow, temperatures going up, the sunshine returns, and we're looking at a really spring-like, very pleasant day. We should be sitting around 3 degrees for us here in the city. We'll be at about 10, so back into the double digits as we near the end of the week. The same through Goderich, through London. A little cooler, not by much, down towards Hamilton and through Niagara, but for the most part, a really beautiful mark to our Thursday. That line of showers, that's what kind of affected us yesterday and into the early morning hours today. That cold front has moved its way past. Behind it, that little bit cooler air, that northerly flow to the wind, and that's going to continue to kind of impact at least portions of southern Quebec and Atlantic Canada as we head in towards the day tomorrow. The high pressure that was in northern Ontario sinks its way down, and that brings the sunshine as we near the end of the week. There's not much going on in our forecast tonight as far as active weather goes. As we head in towards the day tomorrow, you'll need your sunglasses for that commute to and from your activities in the start of the day, and the same for that evening commute. As we head in towards the day on Friday, we start off with some sunshine out there, but it is going to get a little bit cloudier into the afternoon, and this is ahead of a system set to bring some heavy showers as we roll through our Friday night right around 7 o'clock through to the day on Saturday, and then we're just looking at showers. Temperature-wise, we remain above seasonal, comfortably so, as we head through the day tomorrow and our Friday, but as those showers move in, another cold front comes through, and we do cool down as we head into the weekend. So timing-wise, it is the end of the day Friday, right around 7 o'clock. It carries us through the night, and that's how we get through our day on Saturday. Showers, again, heavy at times, dipping down to 5, but again, staying above seasonal. Sunday really is the most seasonal day that we are going to have over the next 5 to 7, and as temperatures cool down, we're looking at a little mixing taking place as that system kind of lingers. So heavier snow the further north you are and the cooler it is. For us here in the GTA, likely falling more as a rain-snow mix. Getting in towards our Sunday night, or I guess technically Monday morning, right around 2 a.m., that's when the clocks spring forward, so just make sure you check everything. Some of them update automatically, some of them don't. Just make sure you're not late. As we head in towards our Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, we steadily climb back into the double digits, although heading into Wednesday, we are watching for a little rain, but hey, it's not bad when you're up to 12 degrees. Michelle, Nathan.
Thank you, Jess. At the United Nations, the U.S. said today it has circulated a revamped draft proposal for a ceasefire between Israel and Hamas.
We've all said repeatedly, this resolution is aimed at supporting the ongoing negotiations happening on the ground. There's a deal on the table for an immediate ceasefire that will lead to the release of hostages and help surge of humanitarian aid to Palestinians in dire need. Now the ball is in Hamas's court to accept that deal.
The Americans have incorporated additional edits into the draft and say they're pushing for a successful conclusion to ceasefire talks. The U.S. believes that agreement is possible.
Well, the war between Israel and Hamas will be a major focus of Melanie Joly's upcoming trip to the Middle East. Canada's Foreign Affairs Minister will be there for a week visiting Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, the United Arab Emirates, Israel, and the West Bank. Joly will meet with her regional counterparts and reiterate Canada's condemnation of the Hamas attack on Israel. The minister will also speak about the need to release the hostages in Gaza and increase humanitarian assistance to the enclave.
Also tonight, 500,000 people in Toronto don't have a family doctor. The warning from the Ontario College of Family Physicians and the tough medicine being offered to solve the problem. Imagine being able to move through space just using your thoughts.
It may sound like a comic book superpower, but as our health reporter Pauline Chan tells us, that's what they're beginning to do at Holland Bloorview Kids Rehab.
BCI technology, or brain-computer interface, is allowing 8-year-old Giselle Al Nasser to move all by herself, no hands pushing her wheelchair.
It's a means of giving kids who have never had the opportunity to move themselves in space to try that out.
The sensors on this headset pick up her brain activity and transmit her commands to the powered chair trainer.
The headset itself, all it does is listens. It listens to the electrical activity of the brain. So we train software to understand when you are not intending to do anything in particular versus when you are wanting an action to happen. And that action can be anything.
Holland Bloorview is the first pediatric hospital in the world to use BCI. Giselle, who has a rare genetic mutation, first tried the technology 3 years ago.
Oh, she loved it. Yeah, she was surprised how she really activated something just by herself.
But to see her move like this is new.
Don't try me out first.
It's really emotional to start with. And yeah, like seeing a glimpse of hope for some dependency for Giselle and her future is something amazing to see.
On some days, Giselle's brain commands can trigger the bubble machine, and the hope is that she will develop a second command soon. The rehab center is showcasing this technology during its annual fundraising campaign, Capes for Kids.
Our funding supports really critical programs at the hospital, like the brain-computer interface and the research that you've seen today. Also supports things like music therapy, summer camps, and other really important programs.
They're hoping to raise $1 million this year, and you can learn more at capesforkids.ca. Pauline Chan, CTV News.
A new warning about a growing shortage of family doctors in Toronto. The Ontario College of Family Physicians says there are more than 500,000 people in the city without a family doctor, and the number is forecast to reach nearly 1 million in 2 years. The college blames a combination of doctors retiring and a shortfall of doctors choosing family medicine.
We know in Ontario we have about 2.3 million people who don't have a family physician at this time. And without action, our forecast is suggesting that that number may grow to 4.4 million people across the province without a family physician by 2026. So certainly we're seeing the trends are worsening, but we do have solutions. And we know that if we take action urgently, we can turn this crisis around.
Also on the health front, the countdown is on for March break, but excitement is being met with concern as public health officials worry about travelers coming home with measles.
It comes as thousands of students in Waterloo region face suspension if they do not update their vaccination status. CTV's Jeff Pickle reports.
There have only been a handful of cases across Ontario, but the spread of measles is a major concern.
I think it's most important to know that measles is a highly contagious disease. So on average, a person who is infected with measles can go around infecting 18 persons.
Easy to spread and theoretically easy to stop with a highly effective vaccine.
So vaccine coverage of around like 95% is required to basically, you could say, like, stop the transmission of the virus.
According to Butt, those planning to travel need to be aware of where they are going.
So there have been some outbreaks in Europe, right? The European countries, recent outbreaks in Florida and the U.S.
With schools out next week for March break, public health officials asking travelers to check if they need a booster.
So even if it is last minute, it's better to get the vaccine than to not to get the vaccine at all.
Adults unsure if they should get a boost are asked to contact their primary care provider.
Once you're up to date on your measles immunization, you're good for long terms.
Currently, thousands of elementary students in Waterloo Region face suspension if they don't update their vaccination status. Just a few weeks ago, over 18,000 students were on notice of suspension. As of this week, that number is down to 10,000.
And what we would say to parents really is don't wait till the day before. Don't wait till March 26th, March 25th, because it's going to be really busy those days.
Aoki says currently there is a 5 to 7 day wait to verify a vaccination status, so they're asking parents to be patient and get vaccinated if they plan on traveling. Jeff Pickle, CTV News, Kitchener.
CTV News Toronto has received 2 nominations in the 2024 Canadian Screen Awards.
There is some urgency to a lot of cases.
This show, CTV News at 6, has been nominated in the category Best Local Newscast. The nominations were announced this morning. The Screen Awards are held each year to recognize Canadian television and film production. And the newscast nominees include programs which aired between September 2022 and August 2023. CTV News Toronto's John Woodward has also received the nomination for Best Local Reporter. The winners will be announced during Canadian Screen Week beginning Sunday, May 26th.
I've been thinking a lot about my real family.
The Crave original show Little Bird leads both television and movies with 19 nods at the Canadian Screen Awards. The limited series is about an Indigenous woman on a journey to find her birth family and uncover the hidden truth of her past.
It looks like the Twilight franchise is making a return as an animated TV series.
How long have you been 17? A while.
Variety reports an executive with Lionsgate shared those plans at a conference yesterday. The vampire novels of the same name eventually became a popular film franchise that grossed over $3 billion at the box office worldwide. No release date for the animated Twilight TV series has been set.
If the world is going to have any chance, it's going to need AIM.
And speaking of adaptations, the live-action version of a hit animated series has just been renewed for 2 more seasons. Netflix's take on Avatar: The Last Airbender premiered February 22nd. It garnered mixed reaction from fans, but it reached #1 on the streamer's view charts for English TV shows with more than 41 million views in its first 11 days. And Canadian music legend Shania Twain has won Grammys and other high-profile awards, and now she's being honored by Mattel with her own Barbie.
Let's go, girls.
Twain has had a few iconic looks over the years, including this one from her music video, Man, I Feel Like a Woman. That look has now been immortalized in a special Barbie doll celebrating the singer's trailblazing career in country pop. Twain said she was honored and loves the reflection of herself.
The Bank of Canada decides to hold its key interest rate right where it is. After the break, what policymakers are signaling regarding much anticipated future rate cuts.
We woke up and there was just sirens all over the place, and we could heard it from the bedrooms and just everything, ambulance, fire trucks, police everywhere.
Updating our top story, a man has been charged after a woman was found dead in a Vaughan home overnight. The victim has been identified as 64-year-old Estella Wheeler. 68-year-old Trevor Wheeler has been charged with second-degree murder.
Remember to keep up to date day and night through our website, ctvnewstoronto.ca, and by downloading the CTV News app. And if you have news, photos, or video of breaking news, let us know.
To business, investors have been piling into 2 old favorites this week, gold and oil. Andrew Bellabian and Bloomberg brings us the latest, including the Bank of Canada's rate decision today.
Hello there. Spot gold hit new record highs today, above $2,150 US an ounce, after the Federal Reserve Chair, Jerome Powell, reiterated that the US Central Bank will probably cut interest rates this year. Lower rates are seen as good for gold because they make bonds and other fixed-rate investments less attractive. Meanwhile, oil traded briefly above US $80 a barrel on signs of rising American fuel demand heading into summer driving season. Energy stocks in Toronto are up almost 7% this year, more than twice the gain in the TSX Composite Index. U.S. drivers demand more range from electric vehicles than drivers in any other country, and they're finally getting long-range options other than Tesla. In the U.S., the number of EVs that can go 300 miles, or about 480 kilometers or more on a single charge, has jumped to 30 models. Meanwhile, the CEO of Uber is calling on automakers to speed up the electric transition. The company wants to make all of its rides in US, Canadian, and European cities electric by the end of the decade. And finally, the Bank of Canada held interest rates steady for a fifth consecutive meeting, but warned that it's still, quote, too early to consider rate cuts. Wage increases have slowed, but the bank still sees, quote, persistence in underlying inflation. Economists think the first rate cut will come in June. On the markets, the Canadian dollar traded at 73.98 US cents, up almost half of a cent. WTI oil was at $79.13, up 98 cents. Western Canadian Select traded at $61.50 a barrel for the Alberta crude benchmark, down 37 cents. And the TSX Composite ended at 21,593.96, up just over 68 points. That's the latest in business. I'm Andrew Bell of BNN Bloomberg.
The Business Report is brought to you by Canadian Western Bank, the bank built for business.
Just ahead, the eye-catching moment when an Air Canada plane is struck by lightning. The dramatic video and why passengers had nothing to fear. That's coming up.
Tonight, a morbid consequence of the challenging economic times.
It's disturbing, there's no question.
Unclaimed bodies left in freezers and families struggling to cover the cost of burying loved ones. Later on CTV National News.
And a reminder, the CTV News at 6 podcast is available as a download every weeknight, and a special bonsoir to those of you listening to the newscast live on News Talk 1010.
Get Toronto's top stories, breaking news alerts, and watch live. Download the CTV News app.
Nominations are now open for candidates to become Mississauga's next mayor. Businessman Peter McCallion, the son of the late former mayor Hazel McCallion, was among the first in line to register this afternoon. He was later joined on the list by local councillor and former MP Carolyn Parrish. The race to replace former mayor Bonnie Crombie officially got underway at 3 p.m. And to be nominated, a candidate must be a resident of Mississauga or own property there, be a Canadian citizen, and at least 18 years of age. Voters will elect the next mayor on June 10th.
To sports, the Leafs are back on the ice tonight, hosting Buffalo.
Tavares shooting, scores! John Tavares!
Toronto's looking to bounce back from a 4-1 loss to the Bruins on Monday. The Leafs are third in the Atlantic Division. The Sabres entered tonight's game 10 points out of a playoff spot.
A frightening scene caught on camera yesterday in Vancouver. A Boeing 777 was, have a look, struck by lightning just after taking off from Vancouver Airport last night. The plane was fine, and it carried on its long flight, landing safely at Heathrow in London. And apparently this is actually not uncommon. McGill University says the average plane is struck by lightning about once a year.
It's just amazing the way they're designed. They can handle it.
If I was on that plane, I'd be fainting.
I've read, yes.
Oh my goodness, they're all good, and now they have a cool story to tell.
They do, and the weather, always impacts everything that we do, especially when you're flying, your day-to-day. And tomorrow, not so bad. You'll need your sunglasses, but that's about it. But heading into the weekend, things do change pretty significantly. So just a heads up as we, not that we're wishing the week away, but I know a lot of folks are eyeballing the weekend as we settle in towards March break and all these fun activities. You want to be prepared for some rain and some rain-snow mix. Right now, though, we're generally just dealing with some cloud cover out there. Not a bad way to end our Wednesday, despite having a bit of a soggy start this morning. Wind direction really has made a big difference. So it feels a little bit damper outside. Not cold, just cool, or like I like to call it warm adjacent, because we're not quite warm just yet. We're sitting at 5 degrees right now here in the downtown core, really right around the Golden Horseshoe. Comfortably between about 5 and 6 degrees, a little cooler the further north you go. Tonight we are going to hold on very steadily, kind of around 7, 6, 5 degrees. And as we head over the next couple of days, we will hold on to these warmer temperatures. The green line is the one you really want to focus on. As we look ahead towards next week, things do change just a little bit. But focusing on the positive, those are the temperatures heading into our Thursday and Friday. A little rain on the way to end the week, but overall we stay just above seasonal as we head in towards the end of the weekend, despite seeing some mixing and those clocks springing forward and into action as we lose about an hour heading in towards Monday.
Jessica, thank you. That's it for us, but be sure to join Omar Sachedina tonight at 11 for CTV National News, followed by Zraida Allman with our next local newscast at 11:30.
In the meantime, our coverage continues anytime on CP24 and online at ctvnewstoronto.ca.
For Jessica Smith and all of us here at CTV News, thanks for watching and have a great night.